Imagine a stretch of water just 21 miles wide, a tiny, seemingly insignificant gap on the map. Yet, through this narrow passage, 17 million barrels of oil and a staggering amount of natural gas flow every single day. If this choke point were to close for even a few weeks, your gas prices, your food prices, your electricity bills would skyrocket within 72 hours. The global economy would seize up. This isn't theoretical. This is the Strait of Hormuz. And for the first time in modern history, this crucial artery of global trade is genuinely under threat. Today, we're going to dive into the history of this tiny, yet world-defining, waterway and uncover why control of it has always been, and always will be, the ultimate key to global power. Let's zoom in on the map. The Strait of Hormuz is situated between Iran to the north and the United Arab Emirates and Oman to the south. At its narrowest point, it's only 21 miles across, making it incredibly easy to control or, conversely, to blockade. But why is it so important? Because it's the only maritime passage from the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. If you're an oil supertanker coming out of Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, or the UAE, you have to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. We're talking about 20% of the world's total oil consumption and 30% of the world's liquefied natural gas passing through this single point. Countries like Japan get 90% of their oil through here. South Korea, 75%. China, 40%. There is simply no alternative deep water route for these massive ships. This isn't just a lane, it's the only lane. The strategic importance of this waterway isn't new. For millennia, whoever controlled the trade routes in this region controlled immense wealth and power. Take the Achaemenid Persian Empire, which flourished from 550 to 330 BC. They were masters of land and sea. While their empire was vast, their control of maritime and land trade routes, including the predecessor to the Strait of Hormuz, was their secret weapon. They didn't just conquer, they integrated and taxed. The famed Persian Royal Road, a 2,700-kilometer superhighway, allowed for incredibly fast communication and trade. Their control of eastern trade routes funneled immense tax revenues into their coffers, funding the largest and most powerful army on Earth at the time. Persia wasn't rich just because it had resources. It was rich because it controlled the roads, the sea lanes, the choke points that everyone else needed to use. It was an ancient blueprint for economic hegemony. Fast forward to the Ottoman Empire, which rose to prominence after the fall of the Eastern Roman Empire. For nearly 400 years, the Ottomans controlled the Eastern Mediterranean and the crucial land routes to Asia, including the spice route. This effectively meant they controlled the flow of highly valuable goods, spices, silks, jewels, from the East to Europe. This control, and the high taxes they levied, was a direct catalyst for one of the most transformative periods in human history, the Age of Exploration. European powers, desperate to bypass the Ottoman choke point, began searching for alternative sea routes. This led to Christopher Columbus sailing west, Vasco da Gama rounding Africa. An empire's control of a vital trade route literally launched the discovery of the Americas and a completely new global order. The desire to circumvent a choke point reshaped the entire world map. In the modern era, the Suez Canal offers a powerful precedent for what happens when a vital waterway is threatened. The Suez Canal, though not as geographically narrow as Hormuz, is another man-made choke point crucial for shipping between Europe and Asia. In 1956, Egypt's President Gamal Abdel Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, infuriating Britain and France, who saw their economic interests threatened. Britain and France, along with Israel, launched a military invasion to retake the canal. It was a classic colonial power play. But the U.S., under President Eisenhower, intervened, threatening to collapse the British pound if they didn't withdraw. Britain and France were forced to back down, publicly humiliated. The lesson was clear. Control of a trade route was more powerful than even direct military force, especially in a new geopolitical era. The British Empire, already on the decline, effectively ended because of this confrontation. So what happens if the Strait of Hormuz, today, actually closes? Iran has explicitly threatened to do so if it faces external military pressure. Its military doctrine is called asymmetric denial, using mines, fast patrol boats, and shore-based missiles to make passage impossible. The U.S. Fifth Fleet is explicitly based in Bahrain, just across the Gulf, with the primary mission of keeping the strait open. But if it were to close for even 2 weeks, global oil prices are projected to skyrocket to over $200 a barrel. The ripple effects would be immediate: economic stagflation, massive inflation, and economic slowdown globally. Airlines grounded. Fuel costs would make many flights unviable. Food prices, transport costs would explode, driving up the price of everything. Supply chain collapse. Global manufacturing, dependent on just-in-time shipping, would seize up. The economic fallout from such a closure would be unprecedented in modern history. A tiny, insignificant stretch of water on the map. Yet, every empire that controlled it became dominant. Every empire that lost it, or was bypassed, declined. The Strait of Hormuz hasn't changed in 2,500 years. The empires around it have come and gone. But its fundamental importance as the ultimate choke point, the ultimate arbiter of global trade and power, remains utterly consistent. We are living through a new chapter in its long, vital history, and the stakes couldn't be higher. If this deep dive into the history and critical importance of the Strait of Hormuz made you look at the map and the news a little differently, then you need to subscribe to Histovra. Because next, we're diving into the 1973 oil crisis, the last time this region held America's economy hostage. And it's much closer to today than you think. Hit that subscribe button and ring that bell.